I think there's a couple of things here I want to say. It's important to make some clear distinctions between what's taking place in Europe, obviously, and what's taking place here in the United States, because it's easy for folks, to watch what's unfolding in Europe and imagine that it's actually happening here. And we're 20 years behind Europe in a lot of ways. But what we have is really multiple merging trends at one time. It's really the perfect storm. There's sort of philosophical, ideological trends, and then of course demographic trends and immigration trends, and just all sorts of things are happening at one time. So first of all, you have the issue, European socialism obviously is a fairly different model than what we have here, and so in a lot of ways, it is a Ponzi scheme. Socialism requires this ever-expanding youth population to prop up the aging European, retirees, and so that demands immigration. Well, of course, Europe sits on top of North Africa, overwhelmingly Muslim, and then of course, so most of the immigrants are coming from the Middle East and North Africa. Of course, the United States is in a very different situation. Our immigrants are largely Latino Catholics. It's a very different situation that we just need to acknowledge. The salvation of this country is Catholic Mexico. I'm just kidding, but there's some truth to that. But of course, we don't rely on. We're obviously not quite as socialist in our sort of economic system, but there's also the trend of the fact that we're now a couple generations into of having been brainwashed, and just our ability to think critically and just think rationally has just been completely hamstrung through moral, cultural relativity, etc., etc. And you have, within Islam, Muslims, throughout the Quran, they're repeatedly told, you are the best of people. You have the best prophet. You have the best book, etc., etc. And, you're the best, the best, the best. And they have this incredible sense of cultural confidence and even superiority. And they're colliding with a people who have this incredible lack of value in their collective history and so on and so forth. And even on top of that, Christian civilization is largely founded, Western civilization is largely founded on Judeo-Christianity and the biblical faith, and thus we are largely a confessional people. Even the most staunch secularist in the United States, there's a value for confessing our weaknesses, confessing our sins, etc., even to a fault, to where we don't have any sense of appreciation for the principles that, in the American Constitution, equality, civil liberties, freedom, all of these things. And so here we have these people, these people, we have a complete lack of cultural confidence. So first of all, we need to regain a sense of cultural superiority. Now the problem with that is as soon as you use the word superiority, everyone hears racial superiority. We've been brainwashed to hear that. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with saying that the principles established, yes, certainly we have fallen short, but we aspire to these principles of, again, equality, civil liberties. They are superior to the principles in Islamic law. The value, the testimony of a woman is only half as good of a man, etc., etc., etc. In order to establish that a woman was raped, there must have been 2 male witnesses that actually witnessed. It's ludicrous. So first of all, there's just a general sense of, and I don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to regain that. I really don't. But beyond that, there's the issue of the gospel. There's the issue of the church. And the question is, okay, so, you look at, for instance, England, and I don't know the exact numbers of Muslims now that are in England. How many millions?
Well, I think, I'm not sure really, but it's
what's the
large sections
what's the
of
total
cities
population
and towns.
of the UK?
It's probably about 80 million now.
Okay, about 80 million. So
it's a small percentage, but they're very, very focused on certain cities and towns and
urban cores and so forth. So now
in a way that you don't see anywhere like here.
Right.
And everybody actually gets on pretty well, which is in a way, for the long term, part of the problem, because everything's okay, because society in the UK works very hard to make sure that you know, we all get on. It's not like France, or our immigrants don't come from North Africa. It's the Indian subcontinent. It's slightly different. Well, very different actually. So at the moment, it's okay. People are treading water very hard to try to make sure it is. But I guess I just think in the long term, because of the sheer numbers and the fact that they're the ones that are, you know, really having lots of children.
Right. So, of course, the adage, the future belongs to those who show up for it. You know, and again, you've got your stereotypical 50-year-old guy from Germany still living at home with mom, and, you know, on the weekend he's not having children, it's disco, and, you know, whatnot, and, you know, and then you combine that with the immigration you know, and they're exploding again. So these demographic shifts happen rapidly. But here's what I was going to say, which is, you know, that can happen fast. In 20 years, you know, it can look radically different. But you look at the numbers, and so if you get roughly 80 million in the UK, there are approximately 3,000 or 4,000 converts to Christianity from among the Muslim population. 3,000 or 4,000. These are some estimates that I've seen. You've got a couple 100,000 converts to Islam among Brits. So I want to think about this. Here's largely what's supposed to be a Christian nation. You've got 80 million, you've got this little teeny percentage of Muslim immigrants that come in, and they've converted a couple 100,000 Brits, and the Brits have converted 3,000 or 4,000. The church doesn't truly have confidence in the message that we are the ambassadors and stewards of. So I think, you know, when we say, because it's very easy to hear all of this and leave and go, crap. You know, like, what did we do that for? That was depressing. But I have confidence in the gospel. I have confidence that the message that we are stewards of is the most emotionally, spiritually, just logically superior message that mankind has ever known. If the church will reclaim a sense of confidence in that message, Islam is ridiculous, but they have such incredible confidence in their message. And because of that confidence, that, you know, a lot of Christians are terrified to talk to Muslims. And yet we have the words of life that can save them, that ultimately they're crying out for. Why are they blowing them? Because they're crying out to the God who's not there, who never reveals himself. He's not there. And so behind all of this, we can't leave tonight with being, you know, just depressed and go, man, that was dark. Because there is hope, but the hope is ultimately in revival. And we can, all of the political solutions and the political things that need to change, that's all very legitimate. But much more than that, we need a spiritual revolution. And there is some hope, by the way. You know, there's some move among the immigrants. I mean, you know, to a degree, Satan thought, hey, with ISIS, I'm going to do my thing. And a lot of Muslims are looking at this and going, this is gross. And, you know, there's the atheist movement and so forth. But there are many Muslims that are coming to faith. But the numbers are not significant enough yet to cause a massive, you know, cultural shift. But it's not going to happen if we don't open our mouths and start preaching the gospel and reclaim that missionary zeal of the early church.